So we're going to talk about polar equations now. So these are equations that look like r equals some function of theta. So let's look at our first example, which would be essentially a constant function, r equals 2. So let's think about what this equation means. If you notice, there's no theta, so the only restriction is that the points on your graph have to have a distance of 2 from the origin. So if I think about that, all the points whose distance is 2 from the origin, well, that would just be a circle right there of radius 2. So r equals 2, this is a circle of radius 2 centered at the origin. Now let's look at another equation. Let's say I look at I want you to sketch the polar curve. Theta equals pi over 4. So now there's no condition on r here. The only condition is that the angle must be pi over 4. So let's look at this graph. My angle, I would go up pi over 4. And then any of the points whose angle is pi over 4, that would be all of these points. But then I've got to push through the origin because that would be negative, having a negative radius. So I would get this line for this graph. It's a line through the origin. All right, so let's graph one more function. Let's kind of graph something a little bit more complicated. So let's sketch the graph of r equals 2 cosine theta. So if you remember back when you first learned how to sketch curves, you learned to plot points. And so that's what we're going to do here. We're going to make our little table to plot points, and you're going to start with theta, and then you'll know your value of r. So let's choose some thetas here. Let's go 0, pi over 4, pi over 2, 3 pi over 4, and pi. And you're going to plug these in to your equation up here to get r. So 2 cosine of 0 would be 2, square root of 2, 0, negative square root of 2, and negative 2. So now we're going to start plotting our points. So start right there and graph that point. Go out a distance of an angle 0, which means I'm on the x-axis, and go out a distance of 2. And then at pi over 4, the distance from the origin has gone down, so it's a little bit closer to the origin now. There. And then at pi over 2, my radius is 0, so I'm at the origin. Okay. And then at 3 pi over 4, my radius is negative, so I got to push through the origin, go into the 4th quadrant, and the distance out is square root of 2. There we go. And then at pi, which is the negative x-axis, I push through and go back to where I started. So if I connect all of these together, what will my graph look like? Connect these points together. Well, connect these points together. And unfortunately, it's not drawn very nicely. This is actually a circle centered, or, well, this is a circle centered at this point in the middle, 1, 0.